Hi, y'all. Thank you again for watching the short set, No Such Thing as an Easy Job. I'm Tony Nguyen, the digital director at Viet Film Fest, and I have the great pleasure of moderating this short film set with some really special guests. I'd love to go around the room and introduce yourself and just your association with the film. I think we'll maybe just kick things off with Corey.
Hi guys, thanks so much for watching our films. My name is Corey Cowan. I am the co-director and cinematographer for Mom, Dad, I Want to Be a Porn Star.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Tung Lee. I am the director and the writer of Woodshed.
Hi guys, my name is Thao and I'm the DP of Woodshed.
Hi, I'm Quan. I'm the director and DP of Tailor Made.
Hello everyone, I am Paul. I am the co-director and the producer of Black White Hats.
Thank you all again for introducing yourselves, and I'm just really happy that we can be together and share space and just talk about these really incredible movies. I think maybe my first question that I wanted to ask everyone in this room is just how did the idea for your film come about? And was it inspired by personal experiences or observations?
Yeah, if it's okay, I'll go first. So I produced and made this film with two great friends of mine, Matthew Gorchkowski and Ariana Claire Isbell. And Matt actually came up with the sort of initial idea, logline of he just had this idea of a girl saying, "Mom, Dad, I want to be a porn star," at Thanksgiving. And then after the writing process, I sort of pitched that the family should be Vietnamese, sort of grapple with the legacy of sex work of the Vietnamese refugees. And then Ariana talked about her experience early in life when she was Catholic, and talked about how like the idea of Catholic shame and sort of the taboo on sex in these kinds of families, and it sort of married into this really incredible like film about generational healing and sex positivity. And it was sort of like the film came apart through like Matthew's original logline, my Vietnamese cultural experience, and Ariana's religious experience. So that's where like our film originated from.
We started making our movie when Now told me about an opportunity for a scholarship from AstraZeneca, and they offered to fund a short film about asthma. And since Now and me both do have asthma and know how it's like, what it's like to have asthma, yeah, we just decided to make a movie that also coincided with our interest in jazz and love for jazz, and that's how we came up for the movie.
Cool. For my film Tailor Made, it was more I was told by someone else to meet this tailor who's also Vietnamese in the city and had a really good story to tell. So I was like, sure. I came down, took him out for lunch, and I was told his whole story about how he left the country as a boat person back in the 80s. And growing up in Vietnam, I haven't been taught too much about the movement, unfortunately. And so it was fantastic to hear that story. And yeah, I related a lot to my own immigration story. So yeah, set out to make the film.
All right, great. Thank you all for sharing.
Is it my turn? Sorry. Yeah, so for White Hat and Black Hats, I was approached by my co-director, Keisha Heman, who is based in America while I was based in Vietnam. And we wanted to do a story about this hacker and his redemption story. So for me, it's all about this journey of a man who can commit the worst crime in the world and find himself in opportunity to help other people to avoid being tricked by people exactly like him. So it's all about a redemption story, and that's why I took on the story.
Thank you all for sharing. I think it's so amazing to kind of see so many different topics, different ecologies, kind of just being really synthesized all on this block, if anything. And then for another question for you all is, what were, I guess, some of the biggest challenges you kind of face in telling these really personal and labor-driven stories?
Yeah. So for us, the nature of sex work in the United States, I also, perceive around the world is this idea that women's or sex work's labor is sort of cheap. That like sort of the idea that they're like selling their body, but there are a lot of jobs in which you sell your body, right? There are coal miners, people who work in like gas factories and who like sell their bodies in terms of their physical health. And so we wanted to create a film that sort of dealt with this idea of sex work as a valid labor, sex work as a good, as a means of service, right? Because it's something that a lot of the world consumes, and the people who make these things should be able to do that job safely and be valorized, right? And so for us, a big challenge was being able to represent this industry in a respectful way. And in order to do that, obviously, neither myself nor Matt nor Ari have experience as sex workers. And so we wanted to speak to people who actually work in the industry. We held dozens of interviews with real sex workers of all different kinds, people who perform online, people who perform in person. And so we really wanted to get a sense of like what it means to be a porn star, whether that even if that term is even correct, right? And so we spoke to a lot of people to try and make sure that we were representing this industry with as much respect as we could, because obviously it's a big part of our film. So I would say the biggest part of the challenge is making sure that we told a story that was authentic to us, even though we haven't really lived those experiences.
So for me personally, the biggest problem in making this movie was working with the funders, the guys who gave up the scholarship, because they had a very specific vision of what the movie should be. Because there's now new ways of treatment for asthma, and they were trying to, like, I don't want to say advertise, but they want to raise awareness of these new treatments. And for me, it felt like I was filming a commercial, which I did not want. So it was trying to find a balance of still making a movie that I want to watch, that creatively fulfills me, but at the same time satisfies the funders. And yeah, that was a pretty tough battle, but yeah.
Yeah, and also I can add up to that also. I think the second biggest problem of making this movie was also like on set. We were pretty short on the gaffer department, on the lightment department, and sometimes we just had our one gaffer girl who did the whole set with 6 different kind of lights, and this was also her first time being a gaffer, and it was a huge challenge for all of us. But in the end, she made a pretty good job actually. But yeah, on some days she were just by herself. That was a big challenge for all of us.
Yeah, for my film, it went pretty smooth. I would say I had a really great time working with and becoming really close with Tam, the subject of my film. And right now it's just more about learning how to get a film out there and getting it to the right audience. I think that's getting a film seen is just as hard as making the film, if not harder, in my opinion. So that's where I'm at.
On our end, I think the toughest part is our main character spent a big time in jail. So we struggle a lot because back at the time AI was not such a developed things yet. We start production right after COVID, and for me, the biggest challenge is how can we show that part of the story without going too much into the detail, because I personally never been to jail, obviously, so I don't know what is it like, and it's all based on his notes. So my character has notebooks, so he write diaries, so we base on his personal notes, and then based on research and come up with we try to experiment with AI illustrations and give it a freedom, like I didn't want to give out the image as I imagine it is. So that's why I choose AI as a tool to somehow give a sense of visual to the audience, still push the story forward, but not give too much of my personal input. For example, if I was working with an illustrator, it would be very straightforward. I would just tell him exactly what to do, and that was something I tried not to. So AI was a kind of like a new experiment for us, and it turns out to be quite okay, I think.
Thank you all. I think I'm going to segue into more individualized questions, if anything. So I'm going to ask this question specifically for Corey, which is I think with your film, it does a mix of humor and really serious family discussions. It's the tone and structure, of course, it just goes from very funny to very serious. How did you kind of navigate that tonal balance when really tackling such sensitive topics?
Yeah, that's a great question, Tony. That's a question that we grappled with, on the film itself. So first of all, I'll just talk conceptually about how, as a cinematographer, I shoot a lot of API stories, and a lot of them are your classic, parent dies or immigrant traveling story and trouble and struggle. And those stories have a place in our history and culture. They absolutely do, because they tell the real stories or the real struggles of our ancestors. But in that same vein, we wanted to tell a story that could address sort of the legacies of our traumas, but also be happy and be joyous and have fun. And so we tried to emblemize that in the film by sort of writing the characters as real people, right? These weren't caricatures. We wanted to really gauge how a real family would respond, and how this is a very serious conversation, but at the same time, it's absurd. It's an absurd conversation. It's an absurd thing to do at Thanksgiving. And it's sort of embracing the audacity of that and really filtering that through our characters. For example, Mom was a really big point of, we sort of separated the genres by characters, where Dad he plays a very comedic role in the film, right? In terms of his positioning, in terms of where his balance on sex work is versus his perception of it. And Mom is more like that very serious tone taker, right? Where she has a very negative view of Mary's profession. And so we're able to balance out the tone by balancing out the characters, where they have very specific moments, where Dad has his moments to speak to Mary, and then Mom has her moment to speak to Mary. And then we have, I think, the best balance of the whole film is Grandma, right? Her jovial, enlightened sense is a balance of both worlds, of the comedy and of the seriousness. And I think that conversation, that last monologue with her and Mom at the end, I wrote that section personally, and I'm most proud of it, because it really, that whole section is our entire film. Like you said, the balance of tackling a sensitive theme like sexuality and sex work with levity and seriousness.
No, I think that's really, really fair and honest, to kind of really give that portrayal, if anything, especially involving a family dynamic and the response, and then of course the genuinely understanding that you can kind of course make peace with someone's career choice, and it's of course only a facet of them, if anything. I know you briefly touched upon this too, but how did you think her decision to kind of pursue sex work kind of impacts not only her identity, but also her family dynamics?
That's a great question. So for us, I actually want to point to something a little odd, which is actually our music. The choice of using Bing Crosby's original song, Plenty to Be Thankful For is actually a direct tie into this question, because the whole grappling of the first section of the film is whether she should say or not. We named our film Mom, Dad, I Want to Be a Porn Star because we thought that for a short film, for you to go in, for her to say that in the beginning and without you having any context is very jarring. We named our film this because it was our original title, but also it makes our film not about the what of it, but the how of it. Instead of being surprised and shocked by the fact that she wants to be a porn star, it's more about how is this conversation going to go through? Is it going to end positively? Is it going to end negatively? And so when we thought about Mary's decision, she's making an irrational choice. Like, this is not, as soon as Kevin shows up, she should probably not do this anymore. But like in that song from Bing Cosme, Plenty to Be Thankful For, that song is sort of emblematic of her decision of, am I okay with myself? Am I okay with my family never knowing this part about me? Or do I need them to know? And that's why when Grandma talks to Mom and the film is resolved and everyone's a happy family again, we play the song again. Because now she can say, I am grateful, I am thankful to have a family that accepts me for who they think I was and now who they know I am.
Yeah, no, that's a really good cue, if anything. So no, thank you for sharing that, if anything. But I guess speaking of music, I think my next questions are actually geared towards the Woodshed team. And I'm kind of, I guess, like curious on how Ben's asthma adds like a layer of complexity of his dream to be a saxophonist, especially because, you know, just jazz in general is a very complex genre. How did you kind of convey that struggle through the music and visuals?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Well, it's just a very simple idea, you know. It's a classic hero's journey, and the hero wants something, and he has like a challenge on his way, and the challenge is something he can't help. It's like it's just a disability, and he's trying to make the best out of it. And the biggest challenge is actually his father, because he has asthma and he knows how to play, and he knows that he can do it, but it's his father who is blocking his way. So that's the complexity, and it's more about family and not about can you do it or can you not, because you can do it. It's just about the resilience and the trust you have to put into your children that they can do what they want to do. And we try to convey that struggle. It's not a struggle, but we wanted to convey his skills and his passion, his love for music through the colored lighting. Like when he starts to play and he gets into his zone, we see all the green light. Green is kind of his theme color, and when he actually gets his asthma attack, and that's when the light changes to red. It gets dangerous. It gets more tense. And yeah, do you have anything to add now?
I mean, yeah, I mean, that was really thorough, if anything. I think that's a really great point in terms, I guess, how the father, of course, can be a foundational person, and it is about like a dynamic instead of just like a self journey, if anything. And then I guess, but I guess speaking of these characters, I mean, how did you both kind of wanting to capture just really the emotional, I guess, physical tolls on these characters? Not only, of course, just like not only just, of course, on Ben, but just the other people that are around him.
It was kind of I had a few discussions with the actor who played the father, because he was, he's putting some input. He was trying to convince me that maybe his father would act out of a different reason. Maybe he secretly he does love jazz, but he's just trying to act like he doesn't understand it, so his son doesn't get in danger. And we just tried to work on set with these little little cues and subtle expressions that the father would drop to get this message across. And what I did is I just let the actors do their thing, what they think is best, because they're trying to express what the role might be best for. And other than that, it's just really basic film language. It's like if he gets during the asthma attack, he gets really scared for his son. We change to a shaky hand camera instead of putting it on tripods. And no, it's basically just stick to basics and let the characters tell the story.
Yeah, nothing to add there actually. That's pretty much how he said it, and that's also the style how we just went through the whole film. We rolled with it, and we had also, besides of shaky hand cameras when he's not feeling well, we had other shots when he's feeling well. We used like a dolly slider, and it's much more smooth, which for him in this scenario was like he's more confident in that state. So that's why we choose this kind of camera movement, and that's how we wrote to the whole film.
I guess that does make sense. I think those the shakiness, those scenes that do feature the shaky cameras for sure definitely felt a lot very raw, if anything. So I think that makes sense in terms of making those choices. And then I think next is really, I have a few questions for Quan regarding Tailor Made. I'm very really interested in terms of this migration from Vietnam to Canada, and how it's just kind of like a really significant life change. Like, how do you think his experience as an immigrant influenced his approach to his work and his business?
Well, he came to Canada when he was 23. So at the time, he didn't have anything else but his pure passion for what he does and determination, right? So I think, like much first generation immigrants, you just do your best and, build a new life from there. So I think that really fueled his passion. And in Vietnamese culture, there's a term of like bringing your whole village over after you've successfully immigrated, and that's what he did, right? Like he had parents and siblings and everyone else in his village to take care of, and I think that's his motivation.
Yeah, I think the part about community especially is something I was really surprised about, in terms, I guess, of course, hearing more about this documentary, which, for a singular person, it seemed to be much more macro than micro. And I guess to that point, how do you think he feels about, I guess, the future of the trade, and do you think that kind of influences, I guess, maybe the narrative direction of the film, of like what this trade kind of means to him, and what kind of community it could bring?
Sorry, would you mind clarifying, like what trade?
Yeah, I guess, like, of course, like the trade of his work, if anything, of tailoring.
The trait. Okay. No, I think it's still very relevant, and he still love his craft. And he's been having a hard time finding someone to take over his shop, and so that he can train and just be in the background for sure. So I think he's always on the lookout for anyone who's as passionate as him in this trade of tailoring. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a little harder to find tailors nowadays.
No, I mean, I can definitely see that, but at the end of the day, it sounds like he has a community behind him, so I think it should not be an issue for sure. But
hopefully,
yeah. But I guess then we'll touch upon with Paul. I think after especially hearing kind of more about these, you brought up the like diary entries and whatnot. I'm actually really interested to kind of hear more you talking about crafting the world and like really talking more about how you were going through these like diary entries and these oral stories in order to like largely craft the world.
So thank you for the questions. I think crafting the world is it's a big word, you know. To me, I just see myself as somebody who tries my best to interpret what the character is trying to tell us, and it's such a long timeline to cover. You know, he went to jail for 7 years, and the whole stories took like over 10 years. When he started as a child, so we went through his photographies. We were lucky enough to access to his childhoods through pictures. So I got a chance to discover the young boy that he used to be, how he got into computer and how he loved playing around with technologies. Then we got 2 long interview sessions, one in Saigon and one in Hanoi, on 2 separate locations. So it allowed me to really digest each stage of his life. So the first conversation we had with him was purely about how he started until when he got arrested. And the second one was about how he came back to Vietnam and then eventually got hired by the Vietnamese government to become a white hat hacker to try to protect the Vietnamese netizens from people like himself in the past. So crafting the world, I think it's based on his stories that he told us. He was very open, you know, like I could feel like he was very honest, and there was a certain pride in him about sharing his personal journey. And then based on that, we kind of crisscross with the pictures that he used to have before he get arrested, and then all of his diaries and the pictures that we got in jail. So he has this habit to write a little bit every single day, telling how his days went. Nothing special really, but it helped us to try to understand what kind of person and really try to draw the curve of his mind. So we kind of really see that young boy who's very passionate, then eventually got sucked into the void and then couldn't stop because it was such easy money. And when he got arrested, based on his diaries, you can clearly feel like a broken man, you know, trying to redeem himself and somehow try to spread his regretfulness to other people. And I guess it's a combination of different mediums, and whatever is lacking, it's the visuals that is inside the jail, what all the visuals that's related to his family, because he's very you know, like protective towards his family. Like so we couldn't talk to his family at all. We couldn't share any image. So it's kind of like a puzzle game when he gave us like some fundamental pillars, and then it's about us to filling those gaps thanks to text. So we use pictures, we use screenshots of diaries, letters from people who sent to the court, and whatever is missing, we just try to fill it in with AI. So that's why I wanted to use AI, because I didn't want to input too much of my personal interpretation into the overarch. So I kind of liked, so AI back then was still very primitive. So you couldn't get the kind of quality that you have today. And I think that's what charmed me about that tool. So to answer your questions, it was throwing a bit of everything into the soup and then just stir it and then add a little bit here and there until the taste is there.
No, that's so really fascinating. I know you touched upon AI a few times, but I'm actually really interested, I guess, in this, you kind of almost like leveraging AI as a tool to kind of fill in like objective truths and not, of course, interject with your own like subjectivity. Can you, I guess, fill us in more, I guess, like your research into finding out like the right tools and then the process of implementing it into your film?
Yeah, so I was collaborating with an AI prompter called Viet. He's based in Saigon, and we kind of discussed about different tools. So there are certain level of limits and possibilities that we can do. So we use Dream Studio. It was very primitive back then, and I kind of like that imprecise treatment of it. I never knew exactly what I would get, and actually, it's the AI who was helping me to guide the visual. So it's kind of like talking to somebody who doesn't know neither. So it's just two idiots talking to each other, and somehow the AI, with its clumsiness back then, kind of helped me to tell the story. So when you watch the film, the AI illustrations, it's the purpose that we use AI is not to recreate reality. So that was never the intention. It's to create something that is dreamy enough, but it still serves the purpose of telling the story. And then based on the visuals that we selected, we work with the animator to kind of move the elements around to kind of bring some storytelling, camera movement into it, some elements that needs to be focused on. But it's really, for me, a collaboration between myself as a storyteller, the character, the documents that we had, and then this mysterious tool that's a bit clumsy, but come in very, like, kind of perfectly fits in what we needed.
I see. Thank you so much for, I guess, giving so much insight, really thorough insight, I guess, on your process and kind of figuring out. And of course, just really seeing that it is just a complementary tool and not, of course, like a tool that's over exhausting everything. But I think otherwise, I think that's really all the questions that I had for today. I'd be like curious on any closing remarks from each of you before we, I guess, end today's Q&A.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone for watching all the films, and we hope you see more films at VFF.
Thank you so much as well. I'm really happy to be able to show our films here for the second time, and hopefully we'll see each other personally for the next time, and enjoy.
For sure, yeah. Looking forward to seeing everyone's film and many more others. And yeah, looking forward to watching Viet Film Fest live as well.
I just want to say thank you to everyone, the organizers, the viewers. Unfortunately, I won't be able to attend in person, but I hope that everyone will have a great time. I'm sure there are many, many great films to watch, and really appreciate the opportunity, and I hope there will be many more to come in the future. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. And again, I want to thank everyone for watching the No Such Thing as an Easy Job set and Q&A. Please be sure to check out the other short sets and features that we have virtually and in person for Viet Film Fest. Thank you all so much and have a great day.